Well, hey, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. I'm super excited to bring you this presentation titled, When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a Script Kiddie. So if I may, I do have to just steamroll through the obligatory, I know no one really cares, credibility slide. So hey, hi, hello. My name's John Hammond. Well, hey, I got my feet wet learning some cybersecurity stuff with the United States Coast Guard over at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. From there, I pivoted over to the Department of Defense to teach with their Cyber Training Academy. And then I wanted to spend some time on the keyboard and do it for real. So I was a red team operator with the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. That sounded cool from the outside. It was supposed to be a whole lot of like high-flying, super elite, high-speed, low-drag, hacking nukes. But there was a lot of red tape, and we just sort of sat in the skiff, sitting on our thumbs, waiting for the clock to run out. So I finally have found my home where I am now, where I love, over at Huntress. I'm a security researcher there, having a whole lot of fun. And some folks might be familiar with a lot of my online activities. I try to share some education, cybersecurity content, videos, and stuff all out and about. And I've been very blessed and very, very fortunate and thankful for all your support there. But I know big numbers or whatever, just fake internet points. So feel free to take me seriously or not take me seriously. I'm totally cool with either one. With that out of the way, I will still say, got all the imposter syndrome, I've got all the I don't know what I'm doing, I've got all of the strange shame and guilt. I did try to cram these slides together the day of the presentation, trying to follow in mentors' footsteps, as we've all seen across the industry. And I gotta be honest with you, I think you might appreciate this. I took a nap to get rid of a headache today, and I genuinely, legitimately had a nightmare that I completely missed the talk. And I was like, I'm here. I'm on site. This isn't like a virtual thing that I could like laugh off. This is, I can't show up again. I can't come down to the venue. But, all right, if I may, I would love a little bit of audience engagement, just a slight, subtle bit. Hopefully some fun while we're chatting about being a script kiddie. Look, if I may ask, how many more red team affiliate folks, offensive security, pen tester, hacker extraordinaire, audience queue? Cool, cool. May I ask how many more blue team-esque, many off defensive security operations center, incident response, digital forensics? Super cool, super cool. And some of you that didn't raise your hand, you're just there. You're just here. And I'm cool. No, you don't need to fall into one bucket or another. I know purple team's a thing, and people go on and on about like green team and new colors that we're just adding to the rainbow. So look, let's have some fun with it, because I would then ask, would you call yourself a script kiddie? I don't know. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Safe space. I'm going to keep my hand up loud and proud. So I'd like to make the argument that that's not so much a bad thing, and I think that's totally okay. But I do acknowledge whatever weird stuff people might tend to say, or just the stereotype or the imagery that might very well be a fault of media, may very well be a fault of Hollywood, if that's to say, maybe movies that make the, hacker in a hoodie and a black mask, ski mask thing with the laptop with one hand typing thing. And usually there's the fun sort of allegory and imagery of someone with a projector pointed at their face. Has anyone ever done this? You can raise your hand for that if you want. I feel like I'm pretty close with a couple of these up here, but I'm grateful for the two slide sides. And I wanted to get some stock imagery just so we know that is maybe what the public or the rest of the world tends to see or think of in a hacker or script kiddie. But script kiddie gets a little bit more specific, because normally it's a demeaning, like rough, mean thing that people tend to say. Like, you're crap at code, you're a script kiddie, you don't really know what you're doing. And I thought I'd ask the internet what script kiddie actually boils down to, because it's still a little bit vague. It's still kind of hard to digest. So Google tells me, and thankfully their AI decided to chime in, so thanks artificial intelligence all over. They say a script kiddie is a novice hacker who uses pre-made scripts and tools to launch cyber attacks on computer systems and networks. They're also known as skiddies. I've never heard that one personally. I don't know, but apparently if you Google skiddies, that is underwear, skid marks, weird stuff. I've not heard that term personally, but I guess that's a thing. Also, script bunnies. So there's that too, if you associate with the spirit animal script bunny. But my good friend Live Overflow, Fabian, another content creator, YouTube influencer, whatever, had some really cool video out and about previously on really the origin of that term, maybe some hacker culture, some background and history of where did that come from. So he did a much better job than I ever would in digging into some FRAC articles, trying to look through old school BBS and other exploits that are out and about, and really where was the first discovery, where was the first mention of someone saying script kiddie. There was a lot of code kiddie. There was a lot of, hey, other extern terms with leet speak numbers and letters in the mix. But it sounds like one of the very first ones was around 1994 when it was out and about. But the first specific record that was seen was 1996. So just a fun fact. I'll admit there's not a whole lot there to run with, but wow, this goes back a ways, right? That's a good many years here. Noting some exploit and saying, hey, script kiddies, don't bother reading below, because that's when we get into the real code. That's when we get into the actual implementation of some attack or exploit. Now, I will admit, putting out other content and videos, much like Live Overflow for 15 years now, I've had my good fair share of people pointing fingers and yelling and screaming and saying, hey, you're a script kiddie. What do you expect from someone out on the internet putting out some crap like this? You don't want any script kiddie stuff telling you what you're doing. You got to learn from real hackers, real nitty gritty. And this goes on and on for years. Code has more holes than Swiss cheese. This is script kiddie stuff. Use C. Write everything in C. I don't know if Rust is now the go-to. Use C, script kiddie. Margarita was going for a while. Script kiddie, clown emoji, script kiddie stuff. Margarita again. Thanks. She's pretty persistent. King of the script kiddies. I might wear that title with a certain amount of honor, honestly. Still using Nmap rather than Zmap. 2000 called and they want their shell script kiddies back. Do people use Zmap or Nmap? Okay, cool. I'm glad. We see some script kiddie in certain extent. Sure, script kiddie power, lol. This is literally showcasing and commenting on a video demonstration that I want to put together. I've never felt more comfortable using canned tools that can do all the work. Your shellcode literally is generated from some online thing you can paste into a Python script. Good thing the real world is never this easy. I will let you assume if that's fact or not. Script kiddie tutorials. So look, I think I've had my fair share. I don't know if you ever have, but that's the thing of putting stuff out online on the internet. And I'm starting to think I'm cool with that. Look, I'm kind of A-okay with either the stereotype or the perspective on that, because there are some aspects of what we might now dub and deem a script kiddie that I like, not gonna lie. Especially the whole using tools thing. I feel like that's a good thing. And we can harp on that a little bit more, but I know we start to get in and out of what the interpretations could very well be. It's gotten so bad, though, if you literally Google script kiddie, I am one of the first results. This is from a documentary that Huntress put together, so thanks, day job. I've immortalized and the kid was already looking kind of like me, but now I'm just genuinely there. Now, a lot of my friends use Arch Linux. And I thought, oh, that's the pinnacle of cool. That's when you're real hackers. When you're configuring everything yourself, you got just raw, plain text files that make up your operating system. You're using a window manager, i3, tmux, whatever magic you'd like. May I ask anyone using Arch for their daily driver? Wow, I'm a little surprised. I'm also feeling good because, I'm still running Windows personally. Anyone still running Windows? And that's okay. Maybe not this one. Sweet. But I thought, look, do I need to use Arch? Do I need to use a little bit more of the cool hipster Parrot OS or Black Arch Linux for more the pen testy hacker shenanigans, maybe Kali Linux, and I will end up using Kali Linux. But I'll admit, I don't think I have a lot of the time to deal with or configure or tune or tweak or rice. I know a lot of folks tend to say that term when they're configuring their own beautiful display of their Linux distribution. Has anyone seen the subreddit r/Unix porn? That's one. There's a heck of a lot of really cool folks making super sleek, super shiny Linux desktops and environments, oftentimes with that low minimum thing. And I know I had NeoFetch or whatever sort of fetch display back up there for Arch. And now folks might say, that's bloatware. You can't use that. You got to use Pfft or fast fetch. So there's a strange, I don't know, sort of strong arm and saying like, look, you need to be using these tools, this setup, Vim, maybe whatever Neo Vim, and you're not allowed to use something that might be more comfortable for you. Whether or not you're writing stuff in Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, personally. I don't know, whatever editor, whatever you might use if you are writing code to start with. I know that's still another mark of the script kiddie is that, oh, you don't write all that code. But let me keep cruising, I'm sorry. I thought that was what I had to do. I had to use that hardcore elite Linux distro, but I've hopped around. I'll admit, I think my trajectory, and I'll be totally painstakingly honest here, started from Windows and went over to Ubuntu, because I do like being able to still, hey, pull in tools as I need, and that's more of a dipping your toes in the water, good feel to Linux. Then I went to Arch, and then I went back to Ubuntu, and then I went back to Windows. And I think that is a little bit due to necessity of the work, working for EDR and looking at hackers and malware. You do tend to really see more of that on Windows, but I will virtualize. I will, hey, get a VM up and running, a virtual machine to run Kali or whatever I need to do that work. Can I ask, where are folks in this spectrum? Are you Linux daily driver installed on the host bare metal or Windows and VM? Cool, dual boot, excellent, excellent. And that's okay. Like, it's your tool set. It's your options, how you want to do what you do to get the job done. And I think that's what really matters. I think that is the core of it, as to whether or not, oh, you need to end up using Vim at this low-level terminal, i3, window manager, always in the command line. Like, it doesn't have to be if you still do what you need to do. And I got one YouTube comment that I think there's a little bit more value and some good sentiment in. So thank you, Go Deeper 7618. They said, I don't get people calling people script kiddies just for using useful tools. It's dumb. Dumb without a B. By the way, I would say that a script kiddie is someone that knows nothing about coding or using the cool or good tools properly. Okay, we'll give it to him. But I do like that last line. That's like calling a plumber that uses his tools a bad plumber, right? It's kind of dumb. I appreciate his dumb without a B at the end of the stop there, but. So, okay, taking what we've seen from AI overlords, Google Internet telling us it's a novice hacker that uses other tools to do cyber attacks or complete computer tasks and things, and Go Deeper 7618 telling us that, look, it's maybe not knowing the code behind it. Those are things that we can keep in mind as we draw out our picture of a script kiddie. But if I may now get to really what could be an example of folks using some of that, oh, not knowing the tool, but not knowing the code behind it. I just thought maybe one simple, stupid example of that is just, hey, asking ChatGPT, asking that AI overlord. And I will admit, I am a big fan. I tend to go over to ChatGPT and have it crap out code because it's a lot faster than I am. But I hope that I have the context to make changes and tweak and reprompt and, hey, actually modify this to what I'm actually asking for and not some half-baked attempt. But look, here was some stupid example trying to say hot, fresh in the news, seeing, whoa, there's a sweet new vulnerability, allegedly, that could mean some bad news bears. What about that Linux cups printer remote code execution? So they, hey, ChatGPT, can you give me that code? And it craps out some Python that I wouldn't want to include the whole thing. But does anyone see anything interesting in there? I don't know if the PHP shell is going to work, truthfully. But maybe some poor fella, maybe some, script kiddie, if we go to that extreme, someone that just doesn't know yet the code and implementations and understanding it all behind it, will just copy paste, slap it into a Python script, fire the gun. And what if, they shit out something different, like, hey, you'll have some API configuration in the mix where they'll have you just enter your API key or your access token or whatever it might be. Bad example, just using HubSpot to fire off a social king. But look, you've got one potential user, maybe someone going through this process that will just blindly follow these instructions, change IP address, port, slap in some API keys that could very well be hard-coded in a lot of their stuff. Small, minute thing, but a thing nonetheless. It sounds like we're starting to drill down to, hey, maybe someone that just doesn't know and will copy and paste to drive forward and try to get things done and do what they need to do. So without having that wherewithal, without having that understanding, without knowing all the ins and outs of the thing. So, okay, then maybe that's what we'll move away from, especially when you can find a couple different foot guns. You ever see a lot of tools online that will tell you to install it, either with like piping curl to bash, where there's content, script, code that you don't know, unless you go interrogate, investigate, see what it is, but you just run it. You just let it go. Here I am pulling a Gia T75, and from their GitHub, a fast SSH installer, piping that to bash. And that could very well work on Windows, maybe a little bit different. You see a PowerShell IWR or invoke web request piped to like IEX or invoke expression. Quick and easy cradle for code execution. So now, if I may ask again, for our red team friends, for our offensive security little practitioners, folks that are doing more pen tests, ethical hacker shenanigans, what was your first tool? Or even what was the first thing that you learned, if I may ask? Well, when you were getting started in cybersecurity, when you were trying to get smart on all this, what were some of the first couple things that you learned? I heard Metasploit. Excellent. Attack map. Burp Suite, cool. All right, so I was going on the hunch for Metasploit, and I'm super glad that's the #1 answer. I'm right on the board for Family Feud. But take a look. What do we think of Metasploit? Good? Bad? Ugly? Do you still use it? It works. It's pretty good. Post-exploitation framework. One of the first things that we get to learn, get our hands on for understanding all these lead hacks, vulnerabilities, exploits, and things. And oftentimes we see that as like a post-exploitation framework. But it's not as cool lately, I think, to end up using Metasploit. It's not as hip. Folks might be saying, oh, we'll use like Empire, get some sweet PowerShell command and control callbacks in there. What about Mythic? We could use Sliver. Havoc's one of the new hot streets out and about. But Meterpreter and Metasploit still works well in oftentimes cases. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I felt a lot of shame and guilt when all the YouTube comments, angry pitchforks came in. It's like, oh, Metasploit, script kiddie stuff. But it's still the stuff. So obviously, I think one of the top ones that you might probably tend to lean on is Cobalt Strike. I thought I heard that shouted out and about. But Cobalt Strike, phenomenal, fantastic capability for a lot of this work. And under this script kiddie methodology, you can't use it because you didn't write it yourself. But think about all the other tools that you might have in your toolkit that you tend to naturally use. I heard Nmap fired out. What about that Mimikatz? What about Burp Suite? I heard that mentioned. Maybe NetExec, some cool predecessor of Crack Map Exec, if folks were still using that out and about. Bloodhound, of course, can't forget. Incredible for Active Directory. Even Azure now, Entra ID, enumerating all the possible attack chains. You got Hashcat, of course. You need to be able to crack those password hashes. Hey, see if we can get any new potential credentials. Plain text as we're digging through that. Maybe John the Ripper in the mix. Evil WinRM to still do some more of that post-exploitation. Maybe you're sending out some of those phishing emails. You need some social engineering, so you use GoFish or some other sweet tooling and capability to do that. Or you're going to end up bundling up some of your older payloads and stuff that you might have off the shelf from other team members, like, oh, using Shelter for antivirus evasion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are these all your tools? No, shocked. There's so much more, right? But you're not allowed to use them because that makes you a script kiddie. That's so dumb. Even all the sweet stuff that's been shared out and about for everyone hanging out here, sharing all the great, incredible new work from Toolshed, I want to use those tools. I desperately think that's incredible because that's a community coming together, getting everyone doing new, sweet improvements, enhancements, better stuff for what we do in our work. So saying, oh, you can't use tools because you didn't write them and that makes you a script kiddie is just so asinine to me. If I may, I'll go on a little bit of a tangent because I hope it's a fun fact and maybe some cool stories. But recently I had a lot of fun joining up with a lot of the Scambaiting community. And folks might or might not be familiar with this, but there are some other individuals out online on the internet. There's a fella, Jim Browning. There's a gentleman, his handle is Scammer Payback or Pierogi. He's the one with blue hair, and you got him right up there. There's a Skeleton Siski, there's a Deo, there's a Carl Rock, there's a Pleasant Green. There are these incredible people that will intentionally purposefully call scammers. And I mean scammers as like the tech support scams that'll try to call you up and say, or maybe they sent an email with like a fake invoice or a fake subscription cancellation that says, hey, your Norton or your Best Buy Geek Squad thing has expired, so we've renewed and called. Charge your card $800, whatever. If you feel this is an error, then call our number, whatever toll-free thing, where they have the big phone number all in a different color, new header, so that's alarming for you, and you call the number. And it is not Best Buy or Geek Squad or Apple or Amazon or Microsoft. It's someone trying to scam you and eventually gain access to your computer. Oftentimes they do that with some remote tooling like TeamViewer or AnyDesk or UltraViewer or ConnectWise, Screen Connect, Rust Desk. There are tons and tons of them. So some time ago, last year, I got to join them for a very cool event, these Scambaiters in the Scambait community, for what they called the People's Call Center, which was intentionally calling these scammers, trying to waste their time so they don't attack real victims and people that could genuinely be susceptible and lose their money. And they pushed the envelope a little bit in trying to gain access to the scammer's computer, to get some new intel, to make a difference, to bring that stuff to law enforcement, and to try to make it right, to fight back against scammers. So incredible mission, very, very cool to see cybersecurity used in a like very prolific way. And I had a mission to try to get the scammers, while we were connected to their computer, remove the tape from their webcam so that we might be able to see their face. So I wrote some silly, stupid code that would just have a little pop-up, lock their mouse in their keyboard, and then try to have a little Windows pop-up notification message that says, your webcam is overheating. Please remove the webcam cover before the temperature affects your computer system. Stupid idea, but it kind of worked. We have some cool footage I'll have out and about, but I did want to tell you a little bit about this because I got a little bit of ChatGPT in the action, helped speedrun some of that code. And the way that a lot of these Scambait hackers, a lot of the folks that do some of the extended access, they will try to reverse some of the connections in what they call gaining extended access by getting another callback with UltraViewer or with Screen Connect or with AnyDesk, etc. So once they've gained access, they'll end up using some stager like a trusted, legitimate remote control capability, like a remote utilities or a other TeamViewer, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, we got some scammers' feet because they had their webcam low on their laptop, but the proof of concept kind of worked, which was very cool. And after they've got that initial access with the trusted remote control application, because that'll work past whatever antivirus, because it's legitimate and third party, but then they'll install a RAT, remote access Trojan. And this is any off-the-shelf, small, easy baby, like Orcus RAT, Nano Core, XWorm, DC RAT, Async RAT, WSH RAT. But we could see it come to life once we've got a little bit of that extra access just to be able to see their webcam. Now, they don't need to be slinging Sliver or Cobalt Strike or any of the elite hipster stuff. We just need to be able to have the access and be able to make the difference for law enforcement to get some of the intel that we need. So that is cool. Feels like there's a real opportunity there. And while I'm learning more and more and more of this whole new world of what Scambaiters use in their community, all the tooling that they might be used to, and whether it's not, some of the fancy stuff that we just tried to enumerate previously. Do you know how they manage all their connections? Do you know how they manage all the Scambaiters they've already got access to? It's Metasploit. So question for our blue teamer friends. If any of the digital forensics, incident response, security operations center defenders are willing to share and chime in, I'd love to ask you, can you think of and enumerate your tools that now suddenly you're ripped away from and cannot use? And I would think, especially I tend to agree, look, we're nothing without our tools with a lot of that work. I want to be able to cut up the event viewer with Chainsaw. I want to be able to look through Windows Registry with RegRipper. I need to collect these forensic artifacts with Velociraptor. I want to be able to throw that stuff into Cape. I need to do some of that deeper analysis with IDA, maybe some Binary Ninja or maybe some Ghidra. Got SleuthKit in the mix, got forensic EnCase, maybe access data. But it's just stupid to say you cannot use these things. So, if keeping this incredible collection of tools, if using them anyway, just because I value my time, that makes me a script kiddie, I'm cool with that. I am totally good with whatever stereotype, even if it's something as stupid and small as, hey, you can't use those tools. I think it's a necessity. And I think there's a lot of good value in using those tools. Whether or not you, want to extend or start to be able to build things or now actually improve and add to and enhance the tooling, you got a couple things going for you. For one thing, it works. So you value your time and you can get things done. Remember, that was the number one goal and mission. And to add on to that, now you got a little bit more exposure, you got a little bit more smarts, and you might be seeing some gaps, you might be seeing some things that you want to add to and make better. In which case, maybe you'll crack open a text editor and start to write some code. And that pulls you out of, whatever script kiddie stereotype to a certain extent. But then when folks say, use C, write it in assembly, well, that doesn't help. Because you've got a ton of options, right? Incredible, phenomenal assortment array of programming languages to choose from. I'm a big Python fanboy. I do like a little bit of PowerShell. Rust scares me because of the syntax, but I know it's phenomenal, and that's what everyone says we should do. But where are you at? What would you reach for? What do you write in? Are you a JavaScript? Are you feeling, hey, maybe Ruby? I don't know if anyone's still doing Perl these days. But Golang, Java's in the mix. Want to get Kotlin and script? And it's, again, so dumb to have someone say, don't use any of these because it needs to be raw, low-level, core, hardcore, Arch Linux, i3, nano, Vim, blah, 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 blah. I had an idea the other day that I would start to write all of my tooling in assembly just because it would be so cool. Like I wanted to have the elite shellcode, laser focus capability, and some tooling or some options. And then the drugs wore off, and I realized that was a stupid idea because PowerShell works everywhere on Windows. So if I may, I don't mean to keep rambling and ranting, I apologize, but use the tools that you like. Use the code, the languages, the stuff that you like. So another rabbit hole for us, if I may. Recently, August, September timeline, just a little bit ago, there was some tradecraft that was hitting the streets from threat actors and adversaries doing their cybercrime stuff. And this was Llama Stealer, actually, one of the info stealer malwares out and about that set up some of these fake little websites as a lure and trap for people. And it looks so stupid because it's literally a button to click on to verify you are human, much like a captcha, right? Hey, just trying to cruise through a form or submit whatever you're submitting. And once you would click the button, it wasn't the usual, try to figure out how many buses or fire hydrants are in this display. They told you to, number one, press the Windows key and R at the same time on your keyboard. To number two, press Control V. And then number three, press Enter. Everyone already tracking? Yeah? All right, some nods. Yeah, we know what that is. We know. Okay. For folks that might not be too familiar, and that's okay, look, that's the Windows dialog, Windows Run dialog button, where Windows key and R would allow you to now run a new sweet capability of code or programs on your system. And Control V will just paste whatever's in the clipboard. So this website, this fake lure, has already pre-staged a payload, much like a download cradle with some PowerShell we were sprinkling earlier, or some of the curl pipe to bash crap, blah, blah, blah. Some small syntax to then get code execution, literally weaponizing a poor user's mistake of copy and paste. And this was out and about. Unit 42 was doing a sweet job tracking this. They got to see a lot of the cool capability, and a lot of folks started to see this out and about on the Twitterverse. Other folks chiming in. Huntress, we got to see it just as well. Kind of sweet to see the attack chain. And now, I was thinking, this is copy-paste, a little script kiddie element to it, right? It's small, simple, little harness that is playing off of a lot of the fatigues that we just tend to have, dealing with CAPTCHA, dealing with a lot of the forms that we'll want to run through. And I thought, this verify your human display and logo doesn't look that good. We could make this better. And that was probably a bad idea in hindsight, but This is where I start to try to dip my toes and step out of that script kiddie lore, but I think there's still elements and pieces of it adding to the backdrop. So I put together a reCAPTCHA phishing, sweet little small harness to recreate exactly that technique and that little trick. And that was cool and that was fun. I don't know if folks would be willing, but I wanted to recreate and make it look like a regular Google reCAPTCHA. So you click the button, it tells you these things, and then it even has a little verification down below with an ID. You can't click the button, but once you follow through the steps, it would then try to hide the PowerShell command that you would run. So then you've got obvious code execution and some small base64 encoded sample, but then there's some HTA, like some HTML applet behind it waiting to look like and keep up the charade that, oh, we couldn't reach the Google servers to verify this, whatever. And I had a lot of fun with that. Hey, we got a good video out and about. We got some sweet news articles that came from the story, seeing this threat actor out and about. We saw cyber criminals use it to hack the government of Barbados. Whoops. And I will say, though, this is not new. And again, script kiddie backdrop, this is not a new idea. This is a lot of the stuff that we tend to see, a lot of stuff we talk about is not new. Darkgate was doing this previously. Unit 42, again, did a lot of the reporting where they had emails going back and forth using a similar PowerShell cradle where you can just get code execution within Explorer. Like you open up the File Explorer, paste into the location or URL bar, it'll still run and execute. So this PowerShell syntax that might look like a key, quote unquote, for some unknowing innocent end users, they say, oh, don't share this with anyone because it's your personal key. It's private to you, which is cutesy. And they don't have the equal sign at the end for regular base64. So it looks, maybe to Joe Schmo, not in cybersecurity, kind of legit almost. The PowerShell thing at the start's a little bit sketch, but if we added that out with a comment, maybe you've got some cool capability. Let me drill the point home, though. It is not new. And then even what I tried to play with, it's not new. Someone else was doing this. So I just thought, I wonder if we could refine that technique. And I'll admit, I didn't want to have to write whatever beginning and look like of a reCAPTCHA widget and dialog box, like the actual display on the computer in the web browser. So I ripped some code from some good other internet person who put together a fake CAPTCHA. Thank you, GitHub user 75A. But I'm like, oh, whoops, wait a second, I'm a script kiddie again because I'm using someone else's stuff. But that's stupid. I think demonstrating the impact, making something happen, having the actual stuff, for one thing, again, I'm going to value my time and I want the results. I want to be able to see this thing come to life. I know we can have the conversations, especially when we were chatting about Rust and whatever programming languages. Sure, in certain environments, you want to have the capabilities of memory-safe language, the speed, the concurrency, blah, 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 blah. But take that with a grain of salt for what you know that you're working on and you know that you're doing. Fake CAPTCHA here was just some code that I wanted to pull through. And again, grateful for the community and other people that contribute and share code and publish their tools. Because again, for a lot of the value that we were thinking of earlier, when we get to use those tools, it could inspire us to make something new, make it better, add to it, and add our own style and flair. And that might pull you out of the script kiddie thing, but I'm okay with it. And this is some guilt tidbit from James Kettle, Albino Axe. He was over on Twitter. And he said, look, when I first got into security, I was so worried about accidentally being a script kiddie or just being called a script kiddie that I didn't use any third-party automation, except Dirbuster, for around 3 years. Obviously, looking back, so stupid, so dumb. If you aren't familiar, James Kettle is one of the directors of research at Portswigger, you know, the folks that build Burp Suite, so maybe a cool grain of salt, extra context there. But I hope, I don't know, us rambling and ranting about this, you're not particularly beating yourself up for, oh, whatever script kiddie name or mantra, or you were to say like, look, yeah, I'm totally cool with using tools because I value my time. I want to see this work. I want it to all get done. And we can experiment and go into the nooks and crannies when we need to, but at its core, I think it is a good thing to be a script kiddie. Because there's something more to it, right? Even what I was doing for cheesy reCAPTCHA or what we were doing with the Scambait scenario, building out things and playing with it, it is just play. and you want to be able to tinker and tweak and tune. So you'll grab something from ChatGPT or Stack Overflow, or you'll put things together, and maybe you'll use some of the other tools that help speedrun, build things along. And maybe you'll, I don't know, do some of the curl pipe to bash, or you'll make some mistakes, or you'll fail, or there will be a gimmick, or you won't have everything that you wanted, but you're still playing, and that's a-okay. So if there's something more to it, and there's a little bit of value, I think, what does this all particularly mean when you're doing all these things? Again, from that perspective of someone who doesn't know the code behind the understanding, maybe doesn't have the wherewithal and doesn't understand all of the implementation, that's not a bad thing. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that just means, well, sure, you might be a beginning novice new hacker, getting into cybersecurity, playing all the things that you do. But ultimately, that means that you're just still learning, because you're going to have all those sweet opportunities, all those sweet exposure from the tools, and you'll get to start to build things out slowly as you build out your own arsenal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So when I grow up, I want to be a script kiddie, you know? I want to keep learning. I think that's the pivot to it. But that is the end of my rant and rambling. Thank you so much for letting me make a fool of myself up here. If I may, if you'd like to keep up with some of the cool stuff that I am trying to do on the sides, we do have a sweet Capture the Flag competition running throughout the entire month of October. That's all online. There are about 6,000 folks digging into it. That's for day job, I'll admit, huntress.ctf.games, but you can see that out online. And another fun little thing, I've been trying to spin up and get together a sweet new adventure. Myself and a sweet partner, Don Donzel, teammate, have been thinking, hey, let's try to get a little bit more training out and about. That is just hacking.com to expand and do more than just the YouTube free education. But we do want to keep making stuff sweet, accessible, and fun. With all that said, thank you so much for letting me ramble, but don't hesitate to reach out. I don't know if I'll be able to answer each and everything out on the interwebs, but you can track me down. Hopefully pretty easy to find online. And thank you again and again and again. So.